camp.
Defense will start at defensive line, and 3 big physical bodies looking to be kind of in that first unit with Malik, Vann, Jowon, Briggs, and Jabari Taylor. 3 guys that have played a lot of football.
Yep. I think that's a great place to start. And I think we can be every bit as good on the defensive front. I really do. The key is going to be the development of to me, 5, 6, and 7.
Yeah.
Because I don't think Jowon can be Jowon if he doesn't have somebody like Marcus Brown was for Curtis Brooks last year. And I don't think Jabari can be Jabari if he doesn't have somebody to allow him to play at such a high level, of intensity. So he only has to play 60% of the snaps. I think we've got a little bit more of that with Malik and into the boundary with with the ability to move guys around and things like that. But that's going to be the big thing defensively is, hey, do we have enough guys so that those guys can be as fresh as they were in the past?
Maybe I'll be wrong on this, but it looks like, at least, and I'm usually wrong, you tell me that all the time, Eric Phillips, Dominique Perry, Noah Potter, and then you also have, Rob Jackson emerging.
See, you don't know. The only one, Justin or Eric Phillips is a guy who got to play hardboard. He is. There's no doubt he's the next guy and could be a starter, to be honest with you. And he could play a bunch of different positions. He's been at nose guard. He's played in the 5. He's without a doubt. That's why I kind of said 5, 6, and 7.
Yeah,
we got to figure that out. But Eric has done a phenomenal job. But it's the same thing. If he has to play 80% of snaps, he's not going to be who he needs to be. Then it comes down to Dom and Dante Corleone that have got to really continue to step up in order to, make Jowon, what Jowon needs to be. And then, whether Noah Potter and Justin Watley and
Rob Jackson.
is kind of a guy that, to me, those guys got to start to come in their own, because if they don't and we don't have enough confidence in them, it's going to be really difficult on those older guys. And then I don't think at the end of the year we're going to be where we need to be.
Linebacker, it's been said that you might have 5 of your best 11 players on your defense at linebacker when you go from Deshawn Pace, Ty Van Fossen, Wilson Huber, Jaheim Thomas, and Ivan Pace.
Is that what you're saying?
It's been said that.
Oh, really?
I didn't say that.
By me?
No.
Oh.
No. The guy that works in another beat around town said that today, actually, in an article. I was using his words.
Okay.
That way you couldn't get me on it. But you do have...
I would agree. I think that there's a lot of depth there. It's going to be real key to figure out, how we can play all 5 of those guys and how that all fits and works and where's the next one come into. Last year we did a phenomenal job with Pace and Ty Van Fossen. I think they played 50-50.
Like 170 tackles combined.
Yeah, the 2 of them obviously by far led the team in tackles at that position, but I think we're 2 and 4 in production in our whole defense. So obviously those 2 guys and finding ways to get them on the field. And I think Jaheim has had an incredible spring and off season. And Ivan Pace has done as good a job as anybody coming in here in 6 months. It just buying in, believing, continue to grow and come out of a shell. I'm really excited to see him play and what he brings.
Jack Dingle would be the most likely, or get most of the reps of the 2 behind.
Yep, him and David Jones. I mean, David will probably be a guy that can swing to Mike and Will, but Jack has done a really good job. It's just redshirt freshman now. It doesn't sound like that. Well, he's been there for a year and a half. This is his second. That's a position that, for me, is like quarterback, and there's a lot of other things than just see ball, get ball, and things like that people would say, well, if you can play a middle linebacker, you can play. There's a lot of the things involved, and I think he's doing a really good job. It's going to be big for him for this whole camp.
The strength of your defense was the secondary. How do you adjust to maybe the strength this time, as we've talked about 3 veterans up front, a really talented linebacker core? This kind of is in Mike Tressel's wheelhouse, right? Like, he's been a great linebackers coach for a long time. How do you adjust to maybe that being the strength of your defense?
Well, I just think for us, maybe being a little bit more multiple in what we're doing. And we got away the last 2 years in particular of not maybe having to change up. We did, and sometimes we even look back and say, well, why we change? When you're playing as well as you were and as talented as you were on the outsides. But I just think that it's going to give us a little bit more flexibility and freedom that maybe makes it more difficult on offenses in some ways if you aren't as predictable about what you're playing in the back end of things. So trying to look at it that way, but also making sure we're not straying from who we are. But it'll be a little bit different, like every year. But I think this year in particular, defensively, will be uniquely a little bit different in the back end. But we still got Hicks, you still got Arquon, you still got some guys that play a lot of football. So you're not sitting back there in that back end with all new guys. I think that it's unique to have 2 fifth-year guys too.
Are you going to be annoyed having to figure out how to defend half the field again?
It might be a little bit more. We're going to have to at least. I'm not saying we are giving into it, but that there'll at least be more balls thrown, I think, towards the boundary than there have been for sure in the last year and a half, probably the last 2 years.
Isn't it funny that teams would say we were going to throw at Sauce, and then they would come into the game and the guy was never open, so they couldn't do it.
Yeah, I think that happened early last year, and maybe the first throw against maybe Indiana was that way, and then it didn't. And then after some of the games later in the year, you started to hear where they were just not going to go there. So, I think at first there was a lot of people that didn't think he was as good as he was. Maybe, that was kind of the buzz.
It's the nickname.
Yeah, it was the buzz, just long. But I think that all in all, it being said that they figured out that he was pretty good, and not that we're going to change our expectations, but we know there'll be definitely a little bit more challenges probably that direction.
So let's start there. Who replaces what I said, and this is me, I'll put this on me, the most dominant player in UC football history? Who steps into those shoes?
Yeah, I mean,
no pressure.
It could be a couple weeks as you kind of use that to roll, and that's how we found Ahmad. To be honest with you, I mean, we were rolling early on UCF. in that game against UCF when he was a freshman. So I would, going into camp, Sheppard has been over that and played that position a lot, and he's continued to grow up. He's in some ways been there, and I know he's ready for that opportunity. But like we always tell him, it's like just because you were the backup and you were the guy, when that guy walks away, that doesn't mean you automatically get slotted in. We're still going to have to figure out who's the best to play over there. And so it'll be a battle, but Jaquan would be a guy that starts off over there. And then, we'll continue to kind of grow from there.
Is Arquon potentially, if you need him, you can use him over there as well?
He can. I think unique for us getting into this fall camp that Arquon is a guy that sometimes you'd say, well, he's a fifth-year guy. He can play a lot of different positions. He's played the nickel. And I think in order to move him to one of those edges, he played obviously the boundary corner against Georgia, but he might be a little bit more suited and fitted right now for playing the field. And I think that's probably where we'll start, is him playing out there in the field. And I don't want to do, what Coach Combs has done has been a great job all through spring, was he moved those guys all around every day. I think going into fall camp, we want to get him in a position to try to see if this is the best position for them.
JQ Hardaway, some would say the heir apparent to Ahmad.
So, he does look. He's got the length. He has done a great job. Him coming in early was obviously awesome for all of us. For him in particular, a lot of experience from being in here early, has grown, a lot stronger. He will be the guy, other guy that's probably into the boundary that's going to get most of the opportunities. And I think that it'll be a battle. I think that we're not worried about him being a true freshman kid. I think. Coming in, like I said, in the spring is a great advantage to him and to all of us. But it's going to be a battle.
Arquon, maybe that's the most logical spot for him. If he's not at nickel, the field would be the...
So we've moved Arquon around a lot, and obviously he's played for 3 years at nickel, but want to try to get him into a position where, hey, let's see how good he can be at that position, as opposed to moving in field and boundary. And he's got an incredible amount of experience. So I think he's right now most fitted for the field. We'll start him off there and kind of roll from there.
Okay. Nickel, I think that's Sammy is a guy that it looks ready, or at least feels like ready, and Taj is a guy that's played a lot of football.
Taj and Sammy are two guys I feel like we really do feel like have have a really good chance to be dominant nickels. I think that Arquon has held that position and done a great job for us. He got a lot of action, mainly because of the way we're built defensively, but also because of Sauce and Coby too. But so those guys are going to be guys that are going to be able to battle, give them a lot of opportunities, and see. I mean, there's big shoes to fill there, and what Arquon's done in 3 years.
Sammy was a guy that worked a lot at outside. When he got here, what was it about what you saw that made you think?
Well, I think it's a combination. I think his physicality, his ability to grow, since he's been here. I always kid him. He's finally turned him from a basketball player into a football player, and that doesn't always just happen overnight. But I think some of that basketball sense, some of that small, short area quickness and strength that he naturally has really kind of fits the nickel position, and I think he's taking advantage of that.
Safety, Hicks has been here for a long time. It's another guy that you're getting back that maybe you didn't fully expect to.
That's the unique thing about the secondary. When you say we've lost so much, we did, but having Arquon come back, who's a fifth-year guy who started for 3 years, and having Hicks come back, who's a fifth-year guy that's started for 2 years and played in some really, really, really big football games. That's kind of where it starts. I think he'll do a phenomenal job, and he has done a phenomenal job of kind of taking into that leadership role because he's going to need to. Because we're going to have to figure out the boundary safety position, and it's a big piece of the puzzle for us.
Jacob Dingle and Bryon Threats probably going to battle for that second safety spot. Is that how it looks right now?
It's the way it is right now. I think that there's some uniqueness in some of the things that we can maybe eventually try to get the best 11 guys, but Dingle has done a great job and been battling, and Bryon Threats has done a really good job. Those are the natural safety fits for us, but there's some young guys that are going to get thrown in the mix as well.
Armorion Smith is one that he is a heat-seeking missile. Like, did you go back and watch some of his hits this spring and go, we might have to find a way to get
some of the ones where we didn't want them to be live? Yes, I did. But Armorion's done a really good job. He's grown up. He has grown in his ability to understand the defense as well, because that's so key for us in the safety position. Isaiah Cox has done a really good job and at growing as well.
And then a lot of young guys in that, not just JQ. Like, there's a lot of talented young guys that are going to sprinkle in that secondary as well.
And that's where I think that's the uniqueness of what a Jacob Dingle can bring you. And of when you do have some of those really younger guys, that's why it's so critical of the leadership of Arquon and Hicks, because in a lot of those other positions, there are going to be some, not just young guys, some really young guys, but they're talented.
Special teams. Fletch is back. The Rake is back for his second year. Everybody said it's going to be impossible to replace Jimmy Smith. I thought pretty seamlessly.
He did it. There
was very rarely ever a time you thought, man, would have been nice to have Jimmy there.
No, he's done a great job. He continues to grow. He's getting bigger. He's getting more physical. He's only going to get stronger. But he also, I think he's understood the game a little bit more. Not that we do that much more for him, but I do think that even his high end, his ceiling is even higher and better than where Jimmy was.
Ryan Coe comes in to compete for that kicker spot. What did you think of him when you got to see him through the spring? I thought inside seems to mess with kickers a little bit. When he got outside at Nippert, I thought he was really good.
Uniquely different. Usually you'd say inside they're really good, they get outside they get a little bit different. But I think that's where he was more comfortable, obviously being at Delaware and what he had done before. But I think more than anything, the unique thing for kickers is how do they kind of connect with the rest of the guys around them, because when you're out there to kick, it's a lonely position, and if you don't have the ability to truly connect with the people that are around you, I think it's an even more difficult position than it already is. And that's where I would say he's got a big leg. I think he's going to be an incredible addition to us. But I'm really impressed with the way that he's connected with the rest of the group.
Returners, you've got a lot of experience there. You have to feel good overall about where your special teams is right now.
Yes, and that's that's another big part that you're trying to find ways to how do you make up for some of that lost production, and not that you're going to lose all the production from Jerome Ford and Alec Pierce, but like the ability to maybe make some more plays in the special teams. If Ryan Montgomery is your tailback, can he really be your punt returner as well? He's done it for 3 years. Obviously, Trey's been a dynamic kick return guy along with Tyler as well. So it's a great place to start, and it's, I think, a greater place for us to grow, even the contribution of what special teams has done.
Finally, how do you replace a guy like, the leader of all things Bearcats and Mr. Bearcat, Ryan Royer?
I don't know that you ever replace. I really...
Did you try to get him to come? He had a year, right?
I've asked a couple times with some different guys. I'm like, well, could he be the Royer? And they're like, no way can he be the Royer. But I think we've got a makeup where somebody can at least, make it light when it needs to be light. I don't know if they've got the switch to go the other direction when it needs to really get serious and crazy, but bigger shoes to fill.
Yeah, bigger shoes to fill. Thanks, Coach. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it.